Welcome back to SoulBack. This is the R&B podcast. Kyle here with Ed. What's going on, Ed?
What up, player? What's up, Kyle?
Not much. Tom, obviously, as you can hear, is not on the podcast today. I'm not even sure what he's doing right now.
Player, you remember that song from Peebo, Looking for Sade? I'm looking for Tom Leo. Where has this dude been? I'm sure he's somewhere listening to something boring and eating something flavorless, but besides that, what's he got going on?
That's a very good question, but it might be a good thing that he's not here today, because I'm about to just give you this right now. I've got some news for you, Ed.
Okay.
Well, before I give you the news, let me ask, how many chicken nuggets can you eat in one sitting? Like, what's the ideal amount?
The idea... I don't go around counting my chicken nuggets before they hatch. I don't know the ideal number.
Well, Ed, let me put some perspective for you. I'm not sure what it's like.
Know.
7 or 8? Is that so? It's around that much? Because I feel like 6 is definitely not enough. I know
no, 6
in
is
Canada
not enough. I'm not a 12-year-old. I need more than that.
In Canada, we offer a 9-piece, which seems to be all right, and then of course we have the 20. The 20 seems like way too much, but I mean, if I really wanted to, I could eat it.
Why on earth are we talking about the number of chicken nuggets you get?
Because I read a headline on Facebook. Apparently, this is a couple years old, but I'm going to read this headline to you, Ed. Watch out, America. McDonald's Japan is releasing a 48-piece nugget meal.
48-piece nuggets? Like, is that supposed to be like a family serving?
Well, it's served in a bucket, like a KFC bucket, but they put the nuggets in the bucket.
A bucket of nuggets.
Will you be partaking in this?
Player, I think I might skip that one. I mean, that's like if Devontae went out to get nuggets for Jodeci, I guess he'd just get that bucket. Because that's the only thing, unless you're feeding like 5 or 6 people, why would you need that many nuggets?
Well, nuggets are pretty good, especially at McDonald's. They're still number 1 in my books for nuggets.
I did not know that nuggets were that high on your list. I had not remembered the last time I ate a chicken nugget. I barely remember how they taste.
Damn. Well, I've got some more exciting news for you. So that was in Japan, the 48-piece nugget. Which originally, when I read it, I thought, oh, that must be an American thing, because you guys love to eat. But
now, why does it have to be an American thing?
Well, you guys love your food, but not to be outdone by Japan. I was scrolling through my Instagram the other day, and actually, this might be U.S. and Canada, but you know in the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, they have the golden ticket?
Yeah.
And then you get, like, unlimited chocolate and all of that stuff. They're actually... They're having a contest right now. It's the golden ticket at McDonald's, and the winner gets a lifetime supply of McDonald's. I kid you not.
First of all, who would... And I know that if we had sponsors, we'd be in trouble, but we don't, so whatever. Who wants a lifetime McDonald's meal? Like, I mean, I like a McGriddle every once in a while in my life, but... Player, I can only take those in small servings. I'm getting old. My blood pressure would shoot up if I had that junk every day.
And that was the next question I was going to ask you. How many times would you go to McDonald's in a week if you got this? Because I would probably go 7 days a week. I'm not kidding.
Well, we know you would, and you wouldn't gain a pound. But let me tell you something, player. Once you start getting closer to middle age and saying, what's up to 30, like Jay-Z used to say, ugh, back in the day, I could eat a bucket of nuggets and be straight. These days, if I look at a nugget, I better run for 3 miles because it ain't going nowhere.
Damn. But this golden ticket is valued at $53,000. So that lets you know how cheap McDonald's is. If that's a lifetime supply.
$53,000.
That'll keep you fed for the rest of your life, Ed.
Well, unfortunately, there's some that's more than some budgets of some R&B albums we've had in the past year, judging by some of this stuff I reviewed. So maybe there is some worth there.
All right. Calm down. Let's talk about R&B then if we're going to go there. Let's start out talking about one of your favorite artists, Ed, Ciara. She put out a new song called Freak Me, and initially I thought she was covering a Silk song, but it turns out she's not. She's jumping on that. It's called, like, was it Afrobeat? Is that's the new trend going on now? Do you like the record?
Playa, it's like, and I know that we have some big Ciara fans who are listeners. Shout out to my boys, but Playa, it just sounds like every other quote unquote tropical song that we've heard in the past year. It's the same up tempo beat. You got the little auto tune intro. It's just run of the mill, and I want. Ciara has, and I'll say this, Ciara has not really been an artist that we go to for innovation. We go to her for fun music. And I just don't want to see her or hear her chasing the next trend. Like, I'm sure people will love it. I'm sure they'll turn it into a challenge, and there'll be children jumping out of cars on freeways, dancing around, getting killed. And we'll all put it on YouTube and laugh, but it does nothing for me. It's just typical.
She did put out a dance video, and she looks good in that, so there's a plus there.
Oh, Play, I never hated on how Ciara looked. Same thing for your girl Ashanti. I'm talking about the quality.
Right. You know what? I've read somewhere that this Afro beat production that's happening right now, it's apparently going to be the next thing in music. I mean, we talked about the tropical stuff, but I think the sound that she came with on this record, I think Omarion put out a couple of records that sounded similar to this. It sort of has a different vibe than, I guess, what we're referring to as tropical, but apparently that's the next big thing. And I don't really see how it would work in large doses.
Well, to be fair, I said that about trap, and I will say this. If there was ever a sound that was going to be next up, I do think it's going to be that sound, because as we've talked about a little bit before on this podcast, I feel like trap is starting to get a little old. It's like, it feels to me like how New Jack Swing felt circa 1991 or 92. It's kind of like, all right, you've had your high points. Now it's starting to get very repetitive. And even the pioneers of the sound are starting to do different stuff. And then we've got mainstream artists doing it. And once mainstream artists start doing it, it's kind of a wrap. So I think people are going to start moving on, and this might be the new sound. And Lord help us all if we got 100 people doing this sound. It's not a bad sound, but it's just no one is bringing anything new to the table. So it's very, very repetitive.
Well, that's what historically we see, right? A new sound comes in, a couple of people do it, then everyone does it, and it becomes so saturated and watered down. Then we wait for that new sound. So I think trap is going through its final stages right now, and like I said, I think this sound that Ciara brought to the table, I'm not saying that she's the innovator of it, but
no,
I think
not.
this is probably the direction that we're headed, and I'm not mad at it. It sounds like a fun sound. I mean, I wouldn't listen to it every day, but at least it's not super auto-tuned, and it doesn't seem like they're talking about Molly and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the reason why I get personally a little bit more offended when people ride trends, because as you pointed out, that's kind of how music goes. There's a hot trend, everybody hops on it, then we on to the next. The difference is, to me, in 2018 as opposed to maybe a couple decades ago, is that there was still some diversity. So whereas there's a hot trend that everybody gets on, there's still other trends going on. But the way that the industry is set up now, there's one trend, you get on this trend or you get no airplay. So you got everybody doing the same thing just so they can get a little bit of shine, and it quickly burns it into the ground. So even if it's new, you're sick of it in like 3 months because everybody's doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. But we'll see what Ciara brings to the table. I'm still waiting for one of those R&B records that she brings to the table, like a Body Party or like a Promise. She does those pretty well, so she can keep dancing, but I'm going to need an R&B song eventually. Let's talk about some new music. Aside from Ciara, Ro James of our website, he had that huge smash Permission a couple of years ago. Now he's back with his new single off his new upcoming album, the record Excuse Me, produced by Tricky Stewart. Did you get a chance to check that out?
I sure did, and I liked it. And I know I'm going to say something I feel like I've been saying all summer here on this podcast. I liked it, but that's kind of it. And that's not to disparage Ro. You know, we're big fans of Ro. I'm a huge fan of Ro. And the song is solid, but I get a little frustrated in kind of what we've heard through a lot of 2018, especially in the realm of R&B, is that we'll get a lot of solid stuff, but not a lot of memorable stuff. I said the same thing about the most recent Tamia song. That was very, very well sung and very well done. But once the track is over, you kind of forget about it. There's something that's missing that makes it memorable, unlike a Booed Up, as much as we talk about that song. Something that sticks to you that makes it memorable. I think that's what's missing in the song. So it's a solid song, and it's definitely, if you're a fan of Roe, check it out. But it's just missing something if we're looking for something to be like a standout flagship single for the next project.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I had a chance to listen to it right before we even hopped on this podcast, and it's a solid record. It's not Permission, but that was a special song. It was all right. I think the interesting thing for me is I interviewed Ro probably, this was back in March, I want to say, and that's when he first dropped his EP, maybe a little after that, but he dropped his EP. It was like a 4-song EP. And nothing really happened from that. I thought he was going to put out some visuals or something, but he just went straight to the single. And when he first put out this record, I thought it was part of that EP, but this is something completely different. So it's like, what was the point of putting out the EP if you're going to move on from it so fast?
Well, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure someone will correct us if we're wrong, I think when he dropped that EP, he was saying that he was kind of coming off a tough point in his life. Can't remember if it was depression or something else that was going on. Yeah. So this was kind of more of a cathartic release to kind of get his motor running again. So I always thought that EP was kind of a separate project, just him just trying to get back in that space and sharing some of the music that he had. So I think that, if I remember correctly, that was the purpose of the EP, and everything that has since followed is him maybe getting back into the gear of album mode.
Right. A couple more records that I want to talk about. Tom's favorite artist, Anna Moore, who I believe he might be managing as well, dropped a new EP, Cloud9.
Them and VanJess, yes.
Exactly. So we talked about her previous EP a couple of episodes ago, and it turns out that EP came out like 9 months ago. And this is her official new release, Cloud9. I quickly previewed it. I haven't really listened to it yet. I really only listened to it because Tom kept bugging me about it. So we're going to wait until Tom is back next week to talk about that one. But I know he was bugging you about this VanJess project, and you finally listened to it, right?
I finally listened to VanJess. Tom and quite a few other of our readers over on Soul and Stereo and the Soul and Stereo Cypher on Facebook, join that if you haven't been there, it's one of those things where it was just like a lot of fan support to the point where like people just saying, "You gonna love it, dude, listen. And I'll tell you something, when y'all gas something up, it's most likely I'm gonna get coming into it skeptical. But it met the hype. I thought it was very, very good. One issue I have with a lot of albums, both R&B and hip hop, in the past year and a half that I've reviewed, is that when you listen to like the first half of the album, you get the good stuff. And the second half, it kind of tails off, and you can tell that that's like loaded up with filler. And they usually put like maybe one good song at the end. This album is a very complete listen. I was listening to it, and even like I'm on like track 12 and 13 or whatever, and it's like the songs are getting better and better. So I was really, really surprised at the quality. I was surprised at the sequencing. It's a very strong listen overall. Now, I only listened to it once. I didn't give it multiple listens like if I'm doing a full review. But just off the one listen that I gave it, it might be my favorite R&B project of the year. We'll have to see once I give it multiple listens. But I definitely highly recommend it. I think our listeners will love it.
And I think Tom will love the fact that you gave that project some props, and Tom will get his 10% from managing VanJess as a result of that.
I hate giving Tom any kind of props, especially money, but when he's right, he's right.
Shoutouts to Tom. Now, speaking of right, I'm not even sure if he's right on this. Remember his weird speculation about Dru Hill and Jazz?
Oh my gosh, his new speculation gimmick. Yeah, don't remind me.
Well, Dru Hill finally put out a press release about their new album, The Second Coming. They put out a promo photo as well. We'll talk about that later. But Troy Taylor's producing the project. Jazz is no longer a part of the group. He's going solo, which kind of contradicts what they were stating initially of him going, for health purposes, which I think still is probably in the equation. I do believe because
from
the performances I've seen from him, he's not bunny hopping anymore with the rest of the group during Tell Me.
Oh my God.
He's sitting on the speakers a lot more than he should be during performances, and I mean, I hope he gets better, but and I'm definitely looking forward to the solo project. But Dru Hill, new album with Playa, Smokey and Black are officially part of it. And Ed, let me just say, before this podcast, I went on Wikipedia, and surely enough, members, Smokey and Black, they're on there.
I guess in your world, if Wikipedia says it, it's true. Well, it's been a weird reaction to a lot of this news, because when this came about, I'm a huge Playa fan, and I thought that this was a great opportunity for Smokey and Black, my boys, to get back on the scene, because they're talented brothers that need to be out there. But the reactions have been all over the place. There are a lot of Dru Hill fans that are straight up heated and think that the purity and sanctity of Dru Hill is now destroyed. And then there's some fans who are like, this is an opportunity for them to both blow. There's been a lot of back and forth. I've been really surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I've been really surprised that fans are so vocal about change. But again, fans don't really like change. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm still looking forward to it. The only thing that I wish is, I do wish that they had a different name. I understand that there's still money and legacy behind the Dru Hill name. But when there's only 2 original members, then you got 2 members from Playa, then you got, what's my man name?
Teo.
Yeah, him. You got him, and he's in it, and he's only been around for like maybe 10 years, but most of that time has been Dru Hill kind of live performing, but away from the studio. I wish they had like some super group name, like if it was an LSG or TGT or something like that, to let them know that, I mean, we can't do Playa Hill, even though that's what I've been calling them, but something that kind of incorporates both groups' legacies instead of just kind of swallowing them up. I feel like might be a little bit more palatable, but I understand from a marketing standpoint why they're just rolling with Dru Hill.
Yo, you don't know how many times I've gone on Instagram and saw the comment, Harpo who this? I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, God.
But yeah, you're right. Like, I went on Smokey's Instagram page, and in his bio it says 1/5 of the member Dru Hill. And I was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It's weird.
But this also confirms that Jazz is actually not a part of the group, because you have Nokio, Cisco, Tail, Black, and Smokey. That's 5 members. Jazz, who is supposed to still be in the group, he would be that 6th, but it says 1/5 and not 1/6, so...
Well, I think it's pretty official at this point. That IG picture has 5 brothers in it, and Jazz is just totally out of frame, literally speaking. So, I think Jazz is completely gone, and this is who we got. It's still very, very weird, and I don't know if it's me holding on to my Playa standum, but it's very, very weird to consider Smokey and Black members of Playa. If it was LSG 2018 or something, I'd be like, okay, this is cool, but maybe I'm just getting hung up on the name. I will say I'm very, very, very excited for the music that comes out. I think that these guys will come out with some great music. If you remember last year's Dru Hill Christmas album that came out of nowhere, that little EP, that thing was tremendous. If anything is close to that, and these 2 guys still have gas in the tank, I'm talking about the members of Playa, I think we're going to be in for something special. So I'm very excited. I'm just weirded out by the name.
Yeah, and shout outs to Troy Taylor. He's done a lot of work with Trey songs, Kevin Ross, and he did a lot back in the 90s. He is probably the perfect guy to spearhead this project. He's R&B to the fullest, so I'm actually really looking forward to the music. I heard it's good. I think Troy played a couple of records on his Instagram Live a couple of nights ago, and it got a very strong response. So I
think that I really think there's some juice here. And in a year where we haven't had a lot of strong R&B releases, I mean, as I told y'all, I couldn't even do a top 10 of the half year at June because we just didn't have enough stuff that I qualified as being must hear. That was 10. We got maybe 4 or 5. So this is definitely an opportunity for them to come out of the gate and knock things over and really shake up the scene. So again, I'm very hyped.
Yeah. Actually, I just remembered a funny comment on Instagram. They had the picture of all 5 of them, and someone wrote, "Wow, Jazz lost a lot of weight, but it was actually black." So.
Oh my god!
So, yeah, everyone on Instagram needs to do better, especially after that Darnell Jones incident that happened a couple of weeks ago, as well as the Darnell Jones high five thing. We need to do better.
Listen, Play. Now I have a question about the Darnell Jones situation, and for those who don't know what in the world we're talking about this contingent of fans online who, for some reason, think Darnell Jones is Darnell Jones. Darnell Jones sounds like a guy that works at the barbershop across from the convenience store on 26th Street or something. But Darnell Jones, is it? I'm starting to think that like maybe it's because I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt because I can't think that everyone is this dumb. But it's like your phone changing Darnell to Darnell? Is this some kind of widespread autocorrect typo issue? Or are people really that crazy?
I tested it out myself, and Darnell stays as Darnell. It doesn't change to Darnell. So. Well,
I guess you just answered that. People are really that dumb.
So, I mean, to be fair, some people refer to Genuine as Genuine. Some people call Timbaland Timberland. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, for the longest time, people were spelling Missy Elliott with 1 T at the end. Even though I'm pretty sure she spelt it in her spelt her name in songs multiple times.
It's always been 2 T's. The T that I kind of give sure. All right, I might give you a pass on, but Genuine is not the same thing as genuine. Stop.
You know, Ed, I'll also give him a pass for Lauryn Hill with the E instead of the Y. I think that's fair.
Players, I'm just saying this. If you're really a fan, if you're like, oh, I live and breathe R&B, and I know this, and I know enough to tell Ed when he's wrong, and let me tell him about himself when he's talking about my favorite artist. If you come in my arena, at least be able to spell these people's names right. You lose all credibility when you come at the king, and you're missing with your misspellings.
Actually, that reminds me, one time a fan asked me if I liked the song Faded Pictures by Casey and JoJo. Because the name sounds like it, Casey and JoJo. I'm like, I guess I could see how you could get that confused, but that was pretty bad.
No, absolutely not. You do not get a pass on that. They don't even sound like Casey and JoJo.
No, they don't. All right, let's talk about Tinashe for a second here. I mean, I like to refer to it as like beating a dead horse, but we're not going to do that, I promise. But I do want to touch on this, Ed. I'm just going to ask you right now because we followed Tinashe since her mixtape days. She got signed to RCA, released her debut, which I thought was pretty good, released her new album, Joyride, which was pretty bad. She was in the studio with Hitmaker, which I found out recently is the rapper Young Berg. He's gone from rapper to hit producer. They've been working on a mixtape together called Nashe. It was like the ratchet side to her. And she released 2 records, and the project is scrapped. RCA decided to cancel it. I read an interesting stat. Tinashe has released 11 singles since 2 On, and none of them have charted on the Hot 100.
Oh my goodness! And then,
so I
let
mean,
me preface this.
Ed,
go ahead, ask your question before I go in.
Into who. So whose fault is it then? Is it Tinashe's fault? Is it the label's fault? Is it the music? Like, what's going on? 11 songs that haven't reached the Hot 100.
Well, see, we've been doing this podcast too long because what I was going to say is actually from my point of view, who was actually to blame. Listen, dog. You know how there's always a person, and we all have that friend that, like, always has trouble in their relationships. And every time they date somebody, it starts out good, and then it's like, oh, he or she is crazy. And then the next person, oh, I dumped him because he or she is crazy. And then I dumped him, oh, he and she is crazy. At some point, player, you got to realize, are all these people crazy, or are you the crazy one? And then Tinashe's part, the part that she plays in this, after 11 tracks, At some point, you have to take responsibility. And I know there are a lot of Tinashe fans who about to light me up, and you know where you can go. E.T. Bowser on Twitter. Let me have it so I can give you the work. But the point is this. There are lots of R&B artists out there who have not even gotten a fraction of the breaks and the ability to have their music put out there and the opportunities that she's gotten. And the ball has been dropped every single time. At some point, we can blame the industry, we can blame the climate, we can blame fickle fans, we can blame her management, we can blame her producers, but after this many misses, at some point we got to be like, Tinashe, this on you. You cannot have this many opportunities and continue to miss with it not being on you. So I'm saying this is on Tinashe.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And I love Tinashe. We both do. We've followed her since the beginning. But it's like the releases that she's putting out, like there's actually a backing to it. There's a music video. And I'm not sure if she's paying for the music video. So I don't want to speak on that. But they look like legitimate releases, unlike Silk's last album. So there's really no excuse for this not to be performing. Unless it's just not resonating with the people, which seems to be the case.
And again, there may be different reasons for that. There may be she dropped one single because it wasn't the right time. Maybe the next single was too trendy and she lost herself in the sound and she wasn't able to distinguish herself. Maybe one single just flat out was trash. But if you've had this many opportunities, you gotta look in the mirror and be like, what am I doing wrong? Because I can pull up a whole list, and you can too, of 20 or 30 artists who we know and support and have talent who haven't even gotten a fraction of those opportunities. So exactly. We can't keep making excuses for old girl.
Well, I got one more excuse for you, courtesy of our boy Eric Benet. He went on a rampage on the internet over the last week.
Oh Lord!
I don't even know where to begin, and maybe Tinashe doesn't fit into the rant, but we'll just give her a pass for now, because I want you to talk about Eric Benet's speeches that he's been making on the internet.
Speeches.
I don't even know how to begin, but let's talk about the rap portion of it first. He compared rappers to white supremacists.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Player. Is it? Well, see, here we go. Now, for those who missed it, I actually broke down both his R&B and his rap thoughts over on Soul and Stereo. I think it was Friday I posted that. So if you want to hear more about this or get pissed off at me more about this like everybody else has, go to Soul and Stereo and you can see my thoughts. I think the article is entitled, is Eric Benet right about the state of R&B and hip hop? Something like that. But go check that out and you can get a more detailed breakdown of the synopsis I'm about to give you now. But for those who missed it, let me tell you what Eric did. So my man went on Instagram and posted this meme. And the meme read, let me pull up the meme. It says, rap artists. If all you rap about is killing black people, degrading black women, abusing drugs, materialization, living a low life, which is weird, you are not an artist. You are a black face for white supremacy. You are being used to help destroy your own people. And Eric Benet's comment after the post was, inconvenient truth to some of the rich and famous. Now, of course, your favorite rappers got all in their feelings and went ballistic. The only person who was kind of level-headed was Wale. But Fat Joe was pissed off, and all these other, Lil Moron and Lil Big Toe and all these new whack rappers are kind of doing the whole Harpo who this. Like Eric Benet hadn't outsold them a trillion times. But whatever. Let me chill on that. Here's the thing. A lot of people were upset because in 2018, we have lost all sense of nuance. You either have to be completely right, you have to completely agree with somebody, or you have to completely disagree with somebody. If you do not completely fall in those categories, people will go off on you. And I'll be honest, a lot of what happens in our world is not completely right, completely wrong. There's sometimes truth on both sides. And what Eric Benet said about hip hop and R&B, we'll start with hip hop before we go into R&B. I see where he's going, and I'm not 100% against what he's saying. But I think that meme did go too far. So, in my opinion, he talked about in the meme is true. All of those things do contribute to the downfall of the black community. And there are lots of artists out here who are lazy and use that materialism and foolishness to hype themselves up. And those things are then again used against us by white supremacists who are using those opportunities to kind of further their agenda, because they're like, see, look at these guys. They aren't worth anything. They say it in their own music. They're celebrating it. However, that's very short-sighted, because you have to look at the history of what's going on. See, now your boy about to break it down.
Right.
When it comes to the black experience in America, it's like no other. Like, you cannot compare that journey to any other really in the world. And a lot of the quote-unquote degenerate stuff that is mentioned here is a byproduct of years and generations of inequality and subjugation and stuff like that. So yeah, there's lots of drugs and materialization and killing and stuff like that. But you have to look at the reasons. That reasons why that happened was because of white supremacy. And if early on in hip-hop's era, we'll get to 2018 in a minute, but early on when artists would talk about selling drugs, I know the Locks were really good about this. They would talk about, and the Clips too were very good, especially Malice. They would talk about selling drugs, but then they would also talk about how terrible it is and how much guilt they have. And while they're just doing this to feed their family and they are not proud of what they're doing and blah, 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 blah. So they would tell reasons why they were doing terrible things. The whole point of hip hop was to be essentially the CNN of the streets. Now, I know it's different now because we got YouTube and we got Twitter. But in the genesis of hip-hop, you didn't really hear what was going on in the black community. So music was a way to tell what was going on. And unfortunately, just like you report about good stuff, you reported about the bad stuff. But what has happened is a lot of people have been able to use that negativity to just kind of line their pockets. And then you got labels who just kind of keep pushing that forward and yada yada and trap and yada blah, and then you got these big wigs that are actually making money off of that. So long story short, yes, the negative stuff in hip hop is bad. Yes, that when we talk about this stuff, taking it out of context does contribute to the downfall of the black community, and it does support white supremacy. However, you have to remember that the only reason this happened in the first place was because of white supremacy. Because of the negative situations that black people have been put in. So what artists need to do is to be more responsible in their music. What's the boy's name? J. Cole. He put out a whole album talking about the current drug culture, but he didn't glorify the drug culture. He's talking in his songs about why it's happening and how we have to fight it. That's how you do it in a positive, respectful way. I didn't like the meme because the meme looks like it was written by somebody's grandma in 1993 whose only rap song they heard was NWA. Like, you're looking at one portion of rap and not the entirety. So I ain't too mad at Eric Benet, but I do think it was kind of an unfair cheap shot, I guess is my synopsis.
Well, I think he's just mad because Jay-Z threw a stab at him on the record and said never go Eric Benet, so he's probably pissed at the hip-hop community now.
Oh my gosh! I think he's good, but there was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, Eric Benet is irrelevant" until Jay-Z made him relevant. I'm like, Eric Benet actually got halfway decent albums that he just dropped, so leave my man be.
Yeah, and then you mentioned Fat Joe, and this is the last point before we move on to the R&B portion. But he kind of mentioned that no one should really take hip hop music that seriously. It's all entertainment, which I don't disagree with that. I think, especially for the youth, I think people nowadays, they consume music just for fun. Like, when someone listens to These Hoes Ain't Loyal, I don't know, they probably don't actually believe that hoes aren't loyal, but they're just listening because it's fun. And I think, although I see Fat Joe's point, it is a little irresponsible on his end as well, being a pioneer in rap.
I think it's kind of a cop-out, to be honest. I mean, yes, this is entertainment, but you can't have it both ways, because there are a lot of artists who say this is entertainment, but in the same breath be like, this is real, this is my life, this is blah, blah, blah. And it can be both if you're just honest. You can say, and Jay-Z's been one who's been good about this, you can say, yes, it's entertaining, but you can also interject, this is also real life into this. And I know a lot of people don't like adult Jay-Z because they're like, oh, he's talking about adult stuff. That's boring. I don't want to hear about my 401k. I want to dance. Well, go listen to Lil Pump and them if you want to be ignorant. But I think that it's a little bit unfair to say this is just entertainment, because those same artists that are saying that are saying, well, I'm the only one being real, and I'm the only one out here living it, and I'm the only one who's telling it like it is. These other people are fake. I'm real. You can't say it's entertainment, because when you say it's entertainment, then it's kind of perpetuating that it's false. And then in the same breath say, oh, I'm the realist and what I'm saying is real. What is better to say is, this is the good and bad of my life. And recognize that music is different. Hip hop has always had authenticity to it. It's not like you're watching Martin or like some movie. Like that's fabrication. You know that's fiction. But hip hop has always had elements of the truth. So just be truthful and be like, I'm a good person and sometimes I do ratchet stuff too. I respect that more than pretending that you're high and mighty. And then when someone come at you saying, oh, well, we just playing. No,
Yep.
Just be real with yourself.
Exactly. Now let's get into the R&B portion of it. That part of it wasn't really all that new. I mean, I call it the Tyrese Gibson rant. Tyrese,
oh boy,
he talked about this a couple of years back about white artists doing R&B music and having more success than black artists who are doing the same type of music. The whole Sam Smith and Adele conversation that we've had for many, many years. You and I have both shared our opinion on it. Was it necessary for him to bring it up again? And what are your thoughts now after hearing what he said?
Well, I have written about this and we discussed this at length on the podcast and on my blog, but I don't think it's a frustrating conversation. I know it's frustrating for an Eric Benet, because like we just said, and like I said in my post, he had an album a couple years ago that I thought was fantastic. We talk about artists all the time on this podcast. We just talked about VanJess, who dropped great music that just goes completely under the radar. I mean, we're probably the most connected and in tune kind of fans of music that you'll ever find on the internet. And VanJess flew right under our radar until it was pointed out. So even we can't keep up with the good stuff. But there are artists who are really being true to R&B and true to the form that just can't get on the radio. And then you got artists who are white artists who are being pushed as R&B artists, quote unquote, and they are feeling some type of way because they want to make that kind of music, but the radio won't let them make that music and they can't get it pushed unless they're trapping. But again, like I've said 1,000 times, it's false equivalency and you're getting mad at the wrong people. First of all, Adele and Sam Smith are never called R&B. I can listen to their music and tell it's R&B. They are labeled pop artists. They are not labeled R&B artists. They are allowed to make that type of music because their audience, quote unquote, likes that type of music, and that is what stations and basically the industry has pushed them toward. Because the industry is so lazy, like we talked about earlier, where it used to be where you had diversity in music, everything is now the same. So if you're black, you're trap. That's just basically how it is. If you're black, we're going to make you have an R&B sound, a hip-hop sound, and the hip-hop sound is trap. So, boom, there you go. And if you're black, it doesn't matter if you do that stuff. You're going to be banished to Urban AC. You're not going to get that push unless you have the hip-hop sound. Now, as you know, things are starting to change. With Ella Mai, and we've got her, and we got Daniel Caesar, your girl Queen, Nigel. We got all these artists who are starting to get kind of the ears of younger fans with a more traditional R&B sound. And I think that's happening because trap has run out of gas. So again, I understand the frustration, but don't get mad at Adele and don't get mad at Sam Smith. Get mad at the actual people who are making this happen, which are the labels, which are the execs, and stop giving them all the power. They don't care about none of this stuff, player. They're pushing what sells. And if the only thing we rock is jumping out the car in the middle of the street to the, what's that challenge? In my feelings challenge or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it's the Kiki trash. Like, if that's all we're going to do, then all we're going to see is more challenges. If that's all we're going to spend our money on and our streams on, that's all we're going to get. If you want better R&B, support R&B. If you don't know where to get R&B, this must be your first time listening to this podcast, because that's all we talk about. If you want it to change, you got to be the change. You cannot wait for someone else to change it for you, because they ain't changing. They just going with what they know. And what they know is trap crap.
Mm-hmm. And I assume because you want change to happen, you're going to go and purchase Nicki Minaj's new album when it comes out next week?
I have already subjected myself to that, and I'm good, dog.
All right. Here's
good
some food
Lord, what a mess.
Here's some food for thought for you, Ed, just because I was thinking about it earlier. You know, we complain about Sam Smith and Adele for being on pop radio, but I have a theory, and I'm just trying to put the words together on this right now. So bear with me. Jessie J, Daily.
Yep.
Just to name a couple. They're not on pop radio. Why is that? Because my theory is that with artists like Adele and Sam Smith, even though their music is rooted in R&B, I think it's a lot more pop driven than your typical R&B record. Whereas Jessie J, her project was straight on R&B. It sounds like it could have fit in with a Lettucey project, and I think as a result of that, that's why it hasn't performed very well relative to some of her more poppier stuff. So is it, you know, the ethnicity of the artist, or is it the type of music that they're making that's the issue? Because like people will talk about Robin Thicke, and really Robin Thicke has only had one big song on pop. All his other stuff has been R&B and has kind of really just been on Urban AC. So I don't know if it's skin color more so than music itself.
Well, again, that's why I say this is a foolish argument, because we always, and they notice we always point to Adele and Sam Smith. Like, those are the only two. We never talk about Daily. We never talk about Jessie J. We never talk about, there's some more white artists I'm blanking on.
John B.
But, yeah, but we never talk about them, and they're white, and they make R&B. To be fair, like I said earlier, Adele and Sam Smith make R&B records. I listen to their albums. There are R&B records on that album that if Jasmine Sullivan or Eric Benet sang, you just be like, oh, okay, that's just a regular R&B song. But they're pushed as pop artists, and most of their singles are more pop-ish. Like Alicia Keys, we call her an R&B artist, but her singles are almost always pop-ish these days.
Right.
So that's just that's the lane they're going in. So yes, unfortunately, R&B is a dirty word. We are keeping R&B stuff. This is not popping. It's not 1994. So a lot of that stuff is not going to make it beyond kind of this insulated genre that it's become. So again, I do think skin color plays a role in it, because I fuss about this 1,000 times. I do not get why we can continually call Rihanna an R&B artist, where she has made literally like 3 or 4 R&B songs her entire career, and she's clearly a pop artist. But she does a lot of rap collabos, so we just throw her in R&B because she's black. And a lot of times with the Adeles and Sam Smith, it's easier to market them as a pop artist because the labels see them as talented, even though there is soul there in some of their stuff in bits and pieces. I know DJ Soulchild just passed out, I said that. But it's true, there's some soul in there. But the thing is, it's easier to market them as pop because they're white. But when their music isn't overly, as a Jessie J, like there's really no pop records at all on hers. Might be 1 or 2 that I'm blanking on. She has to stay in the R&B field, and unfortunately, and I don't say this with any negativity because we love the genre, but she's doomed, because when a label looks at this, they're like, oh, she's R&B, okay, throw her in that pile. But when they see pop crossover potential, and you white, oh yeah, we're opening the doors. And that, again, when I talk about agreeing a little bit with what Eric Benet was saying, that part of his argument I agree with. I do think that opportunities are being offered to white artists that black artists aren't getting. But again, don't get mad at Adele. Don't get mad at Sam Smith. I was talking to this about my wife, this conversation, I mean, maybe a year or so ago. And she was just like, she had a great point. She was like, Adele can't help how the words come out of her voice. Like, it just, if they come out of her throat sounding soulful, that's just her. She's not trying to steal R&B. That's just how she sounds. Mm-hmm. So it's weird that we're punishing her and we're not going at what we need to do is put the finger of blame at the executives and then spend our money on Jessie J and spend our money on Daly and actually show support for the real R&B artists.
I do want to call one person, though. It's someone I met not too long ago. She told me to listen to Charlie Puth. Is that the guy's name? The guy on Pop? Charlie Puth?
Yes, yes. And everyone, he's another guy that people keep telling me to listen to, and I have not heard his yet.
Yeah, I listened to it because everyone kept claiming he was R&B. I guess it's R&B. It's not really R&B, but needless to say, I no longer talk to this girl because I was not interested in his music. Oh, my God. So, there's that.
First of all, you should have shot you done lost your shot, player. But I have not heard that album. I've heard a lot of people say that album was pretty solid, so I got to put that on my list.
All right. Can we get into the Playa Please Award, Ed?
We sure can.
We got 3 today, Ed. Let's bring it back to Dru Hill. I promised that we would talk about their new promo photo that they put up. Did you see it?
Yeah.
So
yep, it was all 3 of them lined up and they're all white. I saw it.
All 5 of them. So if you guys are listening to this podcast right now, go to Dru Hill's Instagram or Facebook just so you can look at the photo as well. So I believe, I don't have the picture in front of me right now, but I believe from left to right you have Black, Tail, Cisco, Nokio, and Smokey on the far right. And if you go to Smokey and you zoom in on his shoes, those shoes are photoshopped, Ed. They are not real shoes. I think, I know for a fact.
How do you know that they're... How do you know this player? How do you know they're photoshopped?
Because if you zoom in on it, the shoes are a lot more, blurry and grainy than the rest of his outfit. And his white-colored Jordans are, a completely different white than, any white that I see in that picture. And, actually, I'll tell you, it's the internet that found it, and I love social media for that. When it comes to mistakes and things that are not up to par, they will call people out on it eventually and immediately. Except for the music, they seem to let that slide a lot, the quality of the music.
Oh,
but everything,
you know it.
Everything else, they will call people out on it. And Smokey, as a result of that, and Ed, we love Playa. You mentioned it earlier. Smokey is actually, I'm gonna give Smokey a shout out because he's one of the first people to support You Know I Got Soul. This was back in 2009, I think, and we did an interview with him, which has 14,000 views on YouTube. So Smokey's our dude, but man, why are you photoshopping shoes?
I've got to go see this. You have blown my man Smoke up. It is hilarious. Did he not have time to hit Jefferson Mall over in Louisville, grab him a pair of white J's, and just be done with it? Did he come there with some blues on? Some off-color grays? Why? What have we become?
I guess he didn't get the memo.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Smoke.
Oh my goodness. Shout out to my man. I love me some Smokey Diggler, and we out here photoshopping shoes.
Yep. So we're going to get him on the podcast to talk about this because we need an explanation, and we need to know what he was wearing before the Photoshop happened. And then
we got to make that happen.
We do. The second part of the Playa Please, and this is just me being a fashion police, but have you seen Nokio's shoes in that same photo?
Those, yeah, they look like they have some King Koopa spikes on them. What is that?
Yeah, they look like they have rubber ducks on them. I don't know what's going on.
Oh my God, we are really going to spend this whole podcast cracking on these dudes' shoes. But the Nokio ones I did recognize because I was like, what is that? It looks like, what were the things on Mario Brothers that were like the turtles, except they had spikes on them and you stepped on them, you die?
Yep.
He looked like those things.
Oh, and we love No Heel too. He was one of the special guests on one of our previous SoulBack podcast episodes. But yeah, those shoes.
Oh yeah, we had him. We had Black as well. We got the whole crew. But oh my gosh, I don't know what was going on with them shoes though.
Well, let's just hope the music is better than that promo photo. I'll give you that. That's all I ask.
I did like Cisco's kind of like asymmetrical matrix coat. Like that, I was like, I could have rocked that.
Yes. Second Playa Please, Ed, for the third straight week in a row, Color Me Bad.
Oh, what have my boys done now?
So, week one, big dude shoved little dude into sound equipment.
Big dude and little dude. They don't have names. They're just big dude and little dude.
Yes. Week two, big dude goes on stage and rocks a t-shirt that says, "I'm sorry," without actually ever apologizing to the other member in person. But it was just, wearing a t-shirt was fine and they were good to go. Week three, Ed, and this current week, I mentioned to you a couple of episodes again that Color Me Bad would be coming to Vancouver for a show in August.
I remember.
It's part of the I Love 90s tour. Well, they've been pulled out of the lineup, so they're no longer coming to Vancouver. Not sure.
Oh my gosh!
Not sure what. Not
did
sure
they
what
start
happened
beefing
there.
again? You're not sure what happened after you saw the dude beat one down on stage, and then the other one came out with a shirt that said "I'm sorry," like he was, like they used to do on wrestling when they took their shirt off, and you saw if they were NWO Wolfpack or NWO Hollywood. He just had his shirt to make sure that he was still on the good guy's side.
Yeah.
Player, he couldn't take 5 seconds to just get on the mic and say, "Hey guys, I know y'all heard what happened to me and my boy Little Dude. So Little Dude from Big Dude, I'm sorry." And the crowd would have went crazy and we would have been done.
And
but why is the ego so big? We can't even say that.
They would have been playing "I Want to Sex You Up," but they will not be. They will not. And Ed, remember last week when Tom was telling us his interview story? And he was giving out tips, and the dude said, well, everybody's got to eat.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, Color Me Bad will not be eating if they're being pulled out of the lineup.
Oh, my gosh. But I wonder if maybe they pulled themselves out of the lineup. Maybe little dude got scrappy again, or big dude got heated because more Popeye's chicken went gone like the first time. I just want to know what happened. I need a Color Me Bad documentary to find out what is going on with my boys, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is 2018. We can all ride on nostalgia. Y'all can perform that one song and get paid for the next 10 years. So get it together, homie.
But wouldn't it be the most 2018 thing ever if they put out a new album next week, just out of the blue?
It would be the most 2018 and R&B thing ever if they put out the album, didn't promote it, and then we had CC send us a tweet and was like, "Look at this album I found on iTunes. It doesn't have a cover, but I think this is a new album."
Oh, jeez.
That is the most 2018 thing.
Shout outs to Color Me Bad. We hope you get it together. We love you guys. Ed, a couple more Playa Please. R. Kelly, have you listened to I Admit since it came out?
Listen, I gave y'all a half hour of my life the first time. You ain't getting it back. Well, no, I've heard it once.
Well, R. Kelly's brother, who was mentioned on the I Admit song, has come out with his own record called I Confess. And one of the claims that he makes is that R. Kelly is having sex with men. Now, we're not going to get into that part of it, but why is R. Kelly's brother getting involved, and why should we care?
This is really becoming the new Trapped in the Closet 20. That's what this is. Like, this is the new Trapped in the Closet. Who's going to be the little person that just runs around and... Oh my gosh. Everybody's trying to get paid. Everybody's trying to get the come up. Everybody's trying to get shine. Kelly did what he did. Let's please move on. What does the brother have to... Is this song 30 minutes too? How long is this song?
I didn't listen. I should probably go and listen to it first.
No, you probably shouldn't.
Alright. And the last Playa Please, we're going to give it up for capitalism. Did you watch the Kanye West Jimmy Kimmel interview?
I watched a snippet of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. Someone sent me a clip and it was just like, you just at least got to watch this part. And there was a part where Kanye was ranting about how it was something like, oh, you know, I was trying to appeal to the MAGA crowd because we all need love and blah, blah, blah. And then Kimmel just kind of shot back, well, they haven't been very loving. And then Kanye just sat there with this blank look on his face and he was like, well, we're going to commercial now.
Right.
That's the only part I saw.
Well, there was another part of the interview where Kimmel asked Kanye, you know, after having daughters, does Kanye still, you know, view women or objectify women, or has his perspective changed now that he has daughters? And Kanye replied with, well, I still watch PornHub. So that was that.
Oh my God.
Well, that was that, Ed. And a day later, PornHub, their Twitter account, tweeted at Kanye and said, thanks for the shout out, Kanye. Here's a free lifetime membership to our premium service. It's on the house. So Kanye now has a free lifetime membership on that website. And this is the thing. Why do the rich keep getting richer? We've been begging for some sponsors for the last 2.5 years of this podcast, and Kanye makes one mention on Kimmel and everything is good.
Playa, the system is rigged. First of all, why are you mentioning porn at the mention of your daughters, you freak? That's number one. Number two, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Now that he has that membership thing, we'll probably never hear from him again. He's going to be shut in his basement with his laptop. When he does come out, he'll have Popeye forearms for putting in all that work. But, oh my gosh. It's so weird to me how our culture is set up. If a celebrity says something, we give them all the freebies. I would hope that he could afford his own premium membership. It can't cost that much.
No, it can't. It probably costs the same as one of those Yeezys that he's selling.
Oh my gosh, those grass cutters? That's what I call them. They look like the kind of shoes I wear when I'm out doing yard work.
Right.
Yet y'all paying $700 for them.
Oh, jeez.
Lended by my grandma. Good Lord. You got me fired up, and we're supposed to be wrapping this thing up.
Well, let's be nice to Kanye, because we might have to use that membership once in a while. I'm just kidding. All right.
Now, when the Ashanti stuff leaks, then that's where we'll know you are, when we're trying to get you on the podcast. Well, what happened to Kyle? The Ashanti leaks. Oh, okay.
He's talking with Kanye right now about the Ashanti leak. Can we get into...
Oh, my God.
All right, let's relax here. Let's get into the SoulBack track of the day here. And I got a special one for you, Ed.
Okay.
This was number 1 on the R&B charts 20 years ago. And this is a record that you really, really like. Kelly Price, Friend of Mine.
Oh, my song. Shout out to my boy Sean Kelly, who today was posting on Facebook on that album, of course, one of my favorite albums, my favorite album of all time, Kelly Price's Soul of a Woman. She has his gospel record, Lord of All, and he posted that since it's Sunday as of this recording, and he was really talking about that, and I was like, that's my joint. And speaking of my joints, I love this single. I remember where I was the first time I heard that song and was like, who is this woman? She is incredible. Still one of my favorite songs ever. And it is a shame that Kelly never reached the heights that I feel like she should have. I think she's got a new project coming this year, so she rarely disappoints. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. I just wanted to give you that one to calm you down.
Give me a win.
With all the craziness that's been happening. But let's talk about SoulInStereo.com, what's going on with the website.
Well, we talked a little bit about some of the stuff that we had going on this past week. Again, if you want to hear more of my thoughts on Eric Benet and his thoughts on R&B and hip-hop, go check that out over on Soul and Stereo, because I have a nice little kind of rundown on my thoughts, and his thoughts as well. And the beloved Kyle also mentioned Nicki Minaj, and I decided to review her new album, Queen, which came out, I think is officially released next week. But it did stream early on Friday. Here's the weird thing about this album. I know this is a R&B podcast, but I want to talk about standom for a minute, because this album really points to where we are in a music culture. If you have followed Soul and Stereo, you know I am no fan of Nicki Minaj. However, for the past decade, she's kind of been uplifted as the greatest female rapper of our time, which is absolutely ridiculous, but whatever. But in this past year, people are kind of getting tired of her because, you know, people are growing up and sick of her mess. So when this album came out, I heard so many negative reviews about it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to destroy this album because I'm not a fan anyway. And when I listened to it, I didn't think it was any worse than any other of her albums. What, you know, none of her albums are good, but I didn't think it was worse than those albums. So it proves to me that if you are a stan for an artist, and we know this, but it just proves it. If you're a stan of an artist, we don't even judge the quality of the music. We hype up an album by how much you like the artist. So even though Nicki has been putting out the same album for the past 10 years, this is the one where people are fed up. Even though it's no different than the one that came out 3 years ago that people called a classic. I just found that very interesting.
Well, all I know is if Dru Hill, if you guys are listening, you guys need to hire Nicki Minaj's photo editor because the Photoshop on that album cover is fantastic compared to what Smokey had to go through with those sneakers.
Shout out my girl Kim. She was like, how many hours did it take to Photoshop Nicki Minaj sitting on that tree?
Right. And then as far as, you know, I got still not much really going on. Actually, I have a bunch of concerts that I'll be going to over the next month, including 112, Boys to Men, the I Love 90s tour, which I think now is All for One instead of Color Me Bad. So that should be fun. We'll find out what the white dude in All for One does finally.
Well, don't yell at him about how he's destroying R&B, please.
All right.
Got enough of that.
All right. And then I think a couple of other concerts. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm going to try to do some interviews because we want to definitely give you guys content as well as this podcast. But Ed, I think that's it for this week.
I think it's about it. See how smoothly things go without Tom? If Tom was here, I'd have had 3 strokes by now because he would have said something crazy about some baked chicken and had some obscure reference about a Music Soul Child song that nobody's heard of but him. And oh my goodness.
Well, Ed, stay tuned next week when Tom is back because we're going to be, he's probably going to talk about baked chicken. And he'll probably do his victory lap over his weird speculation on the Dru Hill on the Dru Hill regrouping and reforming. So I hope you're ready for that.
Oh, we're never going to hear the end of this one, but you're right.
So until then, this is Kyle. That's Ed, and the SoulBack podcast is officially done. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Photoshop your shoes.